orders, all right, the Pope came down in 2014, if you all remember. They drove around all the states in a Fiat, all right, and pretty much came to let the U.S. minor know that their time is up, all right. So we're going to take the time and read this document here. So civil orders issued to all members of the domestic police forces, U.S. Marshal Service, the Provost Marshal, members of the American Bar Association, and the American Armed Services. These organic American states of the Union, known as the United States of America, major, exercising plenary civil power upon the land, hereby appoint General Carter F. Ham to lead and command the Grand Army of the Republic, and its successors under the guidance of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and with their full support. Should it become necessary to suppress commercial mercenary forces operating under the guise of being federal government, agencies including but not limited to the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, the Internal Revenue Service, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, etc., General Ham shall assume immediate command and control of all armed forces and services owed to the United States of America major, stationed in North America, and shall join them under his command at the Grand Army of the Republic. All forces of air, land, and sea are to be employed. So, the Pope is pretty much laying it out that when the Grand Army comes, the armies of the state will band up with the Grand Army of the Republic to annihilate those who are not in honor of the original treaty agreement. It ain't got nothing to do with us. But we're going to continue to read and find out that this has nothing to do with us. Aborigines, of course. Now, any cost or loss suffered, right here, any cost or loss suffered as a result of deployment of the Grand Army of the Republic shall be charged as stipulated prior. All effort shall be made by the Grand Army of the Republic to spare life and property while undertaking any action whatsoever within the states of the Union without exception. The GAR is uniquely enabled by these orders to operate on the land of the 50 organic states for the purposes of securing the lives and property of the American states and American state citizens. The GAR is not a foreign army and is composed primarily of American state citizens. Did y'all understand that? You have American states, which would also be considered foreign states. Like for me, in my instance, Sunel Shi Al Meru Republic would be considered an American state. Okay? So I'm an American state citizen. And so it says the GAR is not a foreign army and is composed primarily of American state citizens. It didn't say United States citizens, it said American state citizens. If required to take field position, the local commander shall make every effort to communicate the basis of their authority and the reasons for their presence on American state soil to ensure a prompt cessation of hostilities and a widespread understanding of the usurpations and acts of fraud which have led to any conflict. All parties must be brought to understand the nature of the federal government, the limitations of its authority, and their own obligation to act in favor of the organic states of the Union. So the Pope is letting us know, he's preparing us, like, yo, when this shit gets crazy, when you see troops start to roll out, you know what I'm saying? You better make sure that you are part of an American state. They didn't say nothing about United States. It says that you are part of an American state, of the organic 50 states, meaning the organic territories. Territory, terra meaning earth. Alright? Terra. And it's crazy because in my native tongue of Creole, right, coming from Haiti, we call the dirt, we call it terre. Vous comprenez? Terra. That's what we call dirt, terre. So, you understand what I'm saying? Putting things together. So, oh, I don't want to miss that. Now, the Grand Army of the Republic shall continue to operate under General Order 100, known as the Libra Code, extant from the pen of the last Republic President, Abraham Lincoln. I should look that up. That's why you see Abe's face on the penny. Copper-colored people. Start putting two together. Now, no orders, executive or otherwise, issued by Barack H. Obama pretending authority on the land of the American states while operating as President of the United States Corporation, nor as the President of the United States of America minor, are owed any performance by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Ham, or any ordinary. All plainly stated grants of contractual authority evident in the Constitution for the United States of America remain in place, subject to good faith performance of the accompanying obligations and treaties. Everything is still there. It's still on point, still on the record. Hasn't been moved, hasn't been changed. Mr. Obama is the president of a governmental services corporation under contract to provide stipulated services to the organic states and is on their payroll. So the organic states created states ofs. So Obama is the president of the Governmental Services Corporation, which comes underneath the state of. And the state ofs are directly connected to the District of Columbia, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, 10 miles square, 10 miles radius square. Alright? So within the District of Columbia, you'll find the state ofs. Right? So the states created the state ofs to do business. So Obama is in charge of the state ofs. He's not in charge of the, or I should say Trump is in charge of the state ofs. Because he's the president of a company, and a company is there to make money. He's not in charge of the state republics. He's in charge of the state ofs. And the state ofs are on payroll by the state republics. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So we're going to go back here. So Mr. Obama is the president of a governmental services corporation under contract to provide stipulated services to the organic states and is on their payroll. He otherwise acts as a foreign dignitary, meaning he's acting as a foreign diplomat, representing the United States of America minor, or the corporate, the U.S. corporation, right? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. In neither of these capacities is he allowed any granted authority to impose upon American state citizens, endanger American state property, or command mercenary forces on American state soil, however veiled as federal civilian service agencies. So, we require the Joint Chiefs of Staff and General Ham to commence measures to disarm federal civilian agency personnel and to seize control of the vast stockpiles of arms which have been improperly amassed by the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, and other agencies employed by the United States. So all these things about FEMA, Homeland Security, concentration camps, Walmart, Walgreens, rounding up people, these are not things put in place by the Pope or the Queen of England. This is the agents of the United States corporation who have gone rogue. They're no longer listening to their superiors. So this is why the Pope had to come down here, because shit's about to get real. So the beef is not with us, but as we're reading, it's getting a little bit more clear what the real issue is, right? And just remember, the Grand Army of the Republic is maintained mostly of American state citizens. American state. To be a part of an American state is to be a part of an American association, maybe of Aboriginal peoples. That is considered a state. Just saying. Now, the only federal agency allowed free egress on the land of the American states is the U.S. Marshal Service, and then only when their personnel are engaged in their duty to protect the U.S. mail and sworn to act as constitutional officers. All other federal agency personnel are limited to unarmed service until further notice, which means only the U.S. Marshal is to be armed. That means people of the police department, all those guys are to be unarmed. And the mere fact that they're still armed is going to be pretty ugly. Like I said, when we start seeing militia actually out and about in the streets. All right. We direct the Joint Chiefs of Staff to... Give me 1 second. So, back to where we're at. Woo! So right back to where we left off, right? The only federal, right? We've realized the only federal personnel allowed on the land, on the organic land, right, is the U.S. Marshal. So now, we direct the Joint Chiefs of Staff to communicate these first two general civil orders directly to Mr. Obama. The members of the U.S. Congress, the administrators of all federal agencies, the members of the Supreme Court, and those acting as governors to compel their rapid understanding and cooperation. Robert Kennedy says, and those acting as governors. Any expense or damage incurred by these organic states or any American state citizen as a result of actions undertaken by any federal agency personnel acting as armed mercenaries on American state soil will be understood as the result of violent crimes committed against the peaceful inhabitants of the land and will incur immediate judgment liquidating the assets of the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve in payment of the stipulated reparations. Such crimes shall also be considered contract default, increasing the public debt subject to bounty. Meaning any expense incurred by the organic people, right, due to the actions taken by the corporation, which would be like them taking the gold out of circulation in 1933, we're not responsible for those things. So therefore, they're responsible for all those. That's what we call the reparations. That's what the reparations are. They take on the debts and obligations of that. They got to discharge that shit, not us. This is where we're going. This is the direction the earth is moving towards. Either you're on this path because you're supposed to be here, and if you're not, hopefully it won't be too late by the time you wake up. But if you're here right now and you're looking and reading this, you're reading this because you're supposed to be reading this right now. Alright? Any and all corporate officers of the United States or any successor organizations inheriting federal service contracts who support, condone, or promote such crimes against the American states or American state citizens shall be subject to arrest and prosecution for commercial and violent crimes. All foreign officials operating as elected or appointed officials of the United States of America, minor, who support, condone, or promote such crimes against the American states or against American state citizens shall be subject to arrest, confiscation of their assets, and deportation to Puerto Rico, Guam, or such other state as may be willing to receive them. So what does that tell you now? It tells you now that all those agents or state actors who refuse to abide by these, when shit gets real, those are the ones who are getting deported to Puerto Rico or Guam, which are territories of the United States Corporation, and any other place that will receive them. And there will be very few places on this planet that receive the people over here who are going crazy. FYI. So, such foreign officials, so which type of people will be deported? Such foreign officials include members of the American and British Bar Associations who were licensed to act as privateers against the interests of the American states and the American state citizens from 1845 to 2013 in flagrant breach of trust. All such licenses are now extinguished. Members of the bar associations are required to cease and desist assaults against the American states and American state citizens, and shall be subject to arrest, confiscation, and deportation otherwise. Where have you heard anything about the African Americans yet? Where have you heard anything about the African Americans yet? Right. Let's keep on reading. Insomuch as corporate officers operating the United States of America, Incorporated, and the United States have contrived under conditions of fraud and semantic deceit to revenue the estates of the American states and living American state citizens to the foreign jurisdiction of the United States of America Minor. Let's go back there. Let's go back just so we can get a clear understanding of what's being said. We want to get a clear understanding of what's being said. So we have people from the United States of America and the United States, meaning the major and the minor, who contrived under conditions of fraud and semantic deceit, meaning wordplay or legalese, to revenue the estates, the states of the American states and the living American state citizens to the foreign jurisdiction of the United States of America Minor. So they revenued the estates of people, meaning they took it from private and they made it public. Bottom line. Bottom line. Hold on. Went in the wrong direction again. Right. Minor. They are found guilty of capital crimes, including acts of fraud and treason committed between 1933 and 1945. What happened in 1933? They took the gold. They took the gold. That was an act of treason. And are condemned posthumously. I don't know exactly what the fuck that means, but I would assume that that means, nigga, you condemned all the way down the line. Insomuch as elected officials operating the United States of America Minor have similarly committed war crimes against the American states and their peaceful inhabitants. During the same time period, they stand condemned posthumously. So nobody's getting a pass. Nobody's getting a pass. No enforcement upon any American state or American state citizen is owed as a result of any act of any Congress operating as the sovereign government of the United States of America minor, nor as the board of directors or board of trustees of any incorporated entity whatsoever. All those estates and estates erroneously believed to represent the American states and American state citizens, and which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States of America minor, and more recently to the city-state of the United Nations, are revenued without exception to the geographically defined American states and the American state citizens, where they shall remain in perpetuity as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. Perpetuity, meaning constantly, forever going on, never ending. All right? And they're being brought back as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. All legal fiction entities, however structured and named after the American states and American state citizens, are returned to them and their control, free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, or obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made in their behalf by officers of the United States of America, Inc. and the United States, Inc., meaning the major and the minor, or by any foreign officials operating the United States of America minor, or the United Nations, city-state, falsely claiming to represent them or have jurisdiction over them. We don't got nothing to do with the United Nations. We note that the current circumstances is in part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans who were summarily claimed as chattels backing U.S. government debt in the wake of the Civil War. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the Civil War was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the American states and the American state citizens that we are dealing with today. It is uniquely fitting that the Grand Army of the Republic is recalled to settle this circumstance in favor of the people. The right to act comes with the responsibility to act. The right to act comes with the responsibility to act. All right? So this is on the record. You know what I'm saying? This was sent to where? Alaska. All right. They have a holding area in Alaska where they can hold up to 2.2 million people. So I wonder why the Pope is riding there.